Let's take a look at finding the derivative of a few functions. The first function we have here is f of x equal to x cubed minus 1/2 cosine x. We will be using rules such as the power rule, the difference rule, the constant multiple rule as we go through the process of finding this derivative. So let's go ahead and take a look. So f prime of x is going to be the derivative of x cubed minus the derivative of 1/2 cosine x using the sum rule. Then we could say that the derivative of x cubed is 3x squared using the power rule minus the derivative of 1/2 cosine x. Well, by the constant multiple rule, I can think of that 1/2 as being in front of the derivative of cosine x. So I can think of that as 1/2 times the derivative of cosine of x. So we get 3x squared minus 1/2 times the derivative of cosine of x, which is negative sine of x. So this ends up being 3x squared plus 1/2 sine of x. So the derivative of x cubed minus 1/2 cosine x is 3x squared plus 1/2 sine x. Let's take a look at our second function here. G of x is equal to 1 over x minus 3 times sine of x. We will be using the same rules as we did in f. We'll be using the power rule, the difference rule, constant multiple rule, and so forth. But in preparation for using the power rule, we need to rewrite our function or our term 1 over x. So we're going to think of this as x to the negative 1 power minus 3 times sine of x. And now we can go ahead and find our derivative. G prime of x is going to be the derivative of x to the negative 1 minus the derivative of 3 sine x. Now, using the power rule, the derivative of x to the negative 1 is negative 1x to the negative 2 minus, and again, using the constant multiple rule, this constant 3, I can move in front and think of this as, make it a coefficient, and think of this as 3 times the derivative of sine x. So 3 times, and then the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. Rewriting our negative 1 times x to the negative 2 power as negative 1 over x squared through properties of coefficients, properties of exponents. This is negative 1 over x squared minus 3 times cosine of x. So for the g function 1 over x minus 3 sine of x, our derivative is negative 1 over x squared minus 3 cosine of x. Let's take a look at another function. F of x equals 4 times the square root of x plus 3 times cosine of x. Again, we're going to want to rewrite this first term using exponents so that we can use the power rule. So whenever you see a radical, you most likely will want to rewrite that part of the function using exponents so that you can apply the power rule. So we're going to think of f of x as being 4 times x to the 1/2 power. 1/2 power is the power for a square root function, plus 3 times cosine of x. Now let's go ahead and find our derivative. So f prime of x, using the constant multiple rule, we can think of the 4 as a coefficient. So 4 times the derivative of x to the 1/2 plus, similarly, for our second term, 3 times the derivative of cosine of x. So far we've used the constant multiple rule and the sum rule. Now we can go ahead and find the derivatives of the x to the 1/2 and the cosine of x. So this is going to be 4 times, using the power rule now, we have 1/2 x to the 1/2 minus 1 plus 3 times, and then the derivative of cosine is negative sine of x. Now we need to clean up, simplify this expression with the exponent. So we have 4 times 1/2 x to the 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2. This will be minus 3 times sine of x. Now my 4 and my 1/2 can simplify, and they become a 2. So I have 2, and then my x to the 1/2 indicates a square root in the denominator. So 2 square roots of x over square root of x minus 3 sine of x. So for f of x equal to 4 times square root of x plus 3 cosine of x, our derivative function is 2 over the square root of x minus 3 times sine of x. Our next example, we've got h of x equal to 2 times sine of x plus 3 times cosine of x. So we're going to be using the constant multiple rule as well as the sum rule here. So h prime of x, using the constant multiple rule, is 2 times the derivative of sine of x plus 3 times the derivative of cosine of x. That constant multiple turns basically into a coefficient. Now, using the derivative of sine and cosine, h prime of x equals 2 times cosine of x, cosine is the derivative of sine, plus 3 times the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine of x. This ends up being 2 cosine of x minus 3 sine of x. So for h of x equal to 2 sine of x plus 3 cosine of x, h prime of x is equal to 2 cosine of x minus 3 sine of x. I hope this is helpful.